Internet. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. Boop 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 boop. What is up, Internet? What's going on? It's the middle of the week, and the chat thing's a little bit messed up. There we go. Big Pedro, first one to the chat. Congratulations on your award-winning performance. To the very first person into the chat, congratulations. Huzzah! As you guys can tell, it's a little bit of a late night stream tonight, you guys. We're getting a late start, but you also notice that tonight's topic isn't necessarily fish tank related. Tonight's topic is in response to Stephen Scoglin's request. He sent me a very nice email and had a lot of questions. So I decided, instead of just typing back to him, we'd go ahead and make a live stream in regards. What the? Sorry, my chair was stuck there. Sorry about that, you guys. My chair was stuck. I got stuck and I couldn't roll around on my wheels, you know? I needs my wheels. I need wheels in my life, you guys. Oh, damn. Emilio! Emilio! It works every time. And Kevin Hayes, what's up, man? How you doing? HC Aqua, what's up? Big Pedro as the award winner, first one to the chat. You're fantastic with the notifications. So fast. So fast. What a fantastic job getting in there. Getting in there when you win. And Gone Mad. Iris is actually gone mad. What's up, Iris? That's Eric. Eric's spouse. Eric and Iris out of, I'm going to guess, space. From space. Yep. That's my guess. Space. The blackness of space. Like a meteor from the heavens, from space flying in. Aquatacy, what is up? What's up, Aquatacy? How you doing? Jumping in to watch for a minute while your daughter is shopping. Where are you shopping? Where could you be shopping right now at this late night hour? It's so late in the evening. Wherever you're at, they got shopping. That's awesome. Iris is here. Oh, hey, Iris is here in the chat. No, Eric. You're from space. Don't go say. Someone from space would clearly say Chicago. You know, that's what people from space always say. Space aliens, you guys. I know it. All right, so I'm going to move the chat here in the video a little bit because we have some different features tonight. If anybody noticed, we have a different intro for tonight. And I'll be doing my best to make new intros as we move along here in the live stream, whatever you want to call this thing. Making slow changes, slow progress. Progress has been slow on making changes to this stuff here. But, you know, if you're going to talk about making a YouTube channel and what you need for it, it's probably good to do a little extra editing, right? So we'll keep doing that in the meantime. Because luckily, one of the things we'll talk about tonight, the rendering speed I've managed to increase my rendering speed on short clips. So now it actually only takes about 3 seconds to actually render them instead of minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes, which generally my big video files take 20 minutes, 25 minutes, that kind of stuff to render. But we'll talk about that later as the live stream progresses here. Mr. Joel Gillett has arrived. Thank you for showing up, my man. Oh, man, we got 2 moderators in the chat tonight. Watch out. 2 moderators going bananas in the chat. She's running into a Daiso store to get some school supplies before they close. Oh, all right. So I guess maybe like a late night swing into the old drugstore, get some stuff like this, like legal pads and graph paper. I mean, who doesn't need graph paper and drafting paper, obviously? Hello. So, okay. All right, so as I was saying, tonight's live stream is about setting up a YouTube channel. If that is something that you want to do, obviously I'm not 100% the comprehensive guy, but I'm gonna be talking to you guys about my experience, a lot of the mistakes that I have made, things that cost me money, all that kind of stuff. Over the years, and production stuff and all that kinds of things. So and one thing I wanted to say here right off the bat, if there are real technical question type stuff and you're looking for YouTube help, I'm going to give you 2 creators that are a huge help and have been a huge help to me over the years, and that's Epos Vox is one of them, and the other one is Linus Tech Tips. If you can't find Linus Tech Tips on YouTube, I'm not sure you're searching YouTube. So Linus Tech Tips and Epos Vox, those guys, Epos Vox, sorry, are the 2 guys that I can definitely recommend. They have really good videos on a lot of the stuff, especially the stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. They go into way detail on that kind of stuff. So like I said, I'm going to try to focus tonight on mistakes that I've personally made, things that I screwed up over the years, and so things that you guys can avoid. Realistically, it's money. Those are really the big problems that you're going to end up making, realistically. That I can help you guys kind of avoid realistically. Hey, FU2's here. Rurutu's here. Being a hot chick helps to get the views you need to Mission Impossible Taylor Nicole Dean face when you stream. Yeah, I suppose so. But PewDiePie is just a dude, right? He's the biggest YouTuber in the whole world, and that's just a dude. So, well, it may help, but maybe not the most important thing, right? So, Kevin Hayes, I hate upload time. My phone seems faster than the computer. I've been just uploading raw footage instead of editing due to computer suckage. Okay, yeah, we'll go over that stuff for sure. Sergeant Tank is here. What's up, Jeremy? How you doing? All right, so let's bust in here and let's look real cool over here and start up. Ba-boom. Oh yeah, got ourselves a little dealy bobber here. That's just saying what we're talking about in the video. There, I had to move the chat a little bit. Sorry about that, guys. So we got that fixed. And then I'll try to keep the topic in the bottom corner right there so people can know what we're talking about and let's stay focused on what it is we're talking about. The first question that I almost always get is, what should I do for my computer, right? What do I need for a computer? More often than not, people often, say that they need a Mac or a MacBook or something along those lines. I am not a Mac guy. And let me explain my reasoning why I'm a PC guy. It's a multiple faceted reason, so let's just kind of jump into it here, and I'll kind of freestyle as I'm talking about it. One of the big reasons that I am a PC guy and not a Mac guy. Somebody my age actually remembers when we actually had to DOS prompt and actually type in everything into the computer to get it to make it to do stuff. I don't like solely point and click style computers because more often than not, I'm often doing things to my computer that I need to fix stuff. So I need to fix code, I need to change things and do stuff like that. Macs don't allow me to do any of that kind of stuff. On top of that, not only on the software end, but on the hardware end, you get a Mac, that's what it is. It's going to cost you a significant amount of money in order to change anything. You want to add a hard drive, you want to add some RAM, you need to do anything like that. It's going to cost you a significant amount of money to get someone else to do it, or you'll lose your, you'll lose your warranty, B, you'll lose your warranty, and then you have to have somebody do it, and you have to pay them a ton of money at the Mac store to have them actually do something to it. Now, do they work? Yes. Do they work well? As far as I know, yes, they work fantastically. And if it's something, and then on top of those 2 points, my main point has always been I can get twice the PC for about a quarter of the price of a Mac. So if I was, I guess it's sort of a 1-to-4 ratio. It's like $1,000 PC is essentially a $4,000 Mac, right? So if that kind of makes sense. And so cost has always been something that kept me out of the Mac stuff also. So those are the main 3 points that I went out from there. Now, some of the stuff that I wanted to explain, what your computer is that you're looking for, and in response to Steven's question, is that for his equipment is that he basically he says that he has the basics. He has essentially like a 2-year-old gaming computer, which honestly a gaming PC is going to put you in the realm of where you want to be, because a gaming PC is pretty much geared pretty closely to what a video editing computer is going to be. You're looking for a fast processor, you're looking for a nice video card, you're looking for a good amount of RAM into your computer, and we'll get into that stuff in a minute here, but I want to directly answer the question that is basically the kind of computer. A gaming computer is essentially what you'd be building in regards to a video editing computer, and also dependent on some software, which direction you would exactly want to go in. So if you already have a gaming computer, you're pretty darn close, and you might just have to screw around with a couple of things, maybe add some RAM, maybe think about changing your processor if at all possible. And gaming computers, and his question here is asking if his gaming computer would be able to handle streaming. Well, gaming computers are more often than not designed to actually stream these days. It's something that is really popular, especially playing online, multiple online MMORPGs, multiple online MMORPG, multiple online operator role-playing game. You guys know what I'm talking about. First game shooters like Counter-Strike and all that kind of stuff is all multiple player online streaming. So a gaming computer would actually be a great computer to stream if that was something that you wanted to kind of multitask with that computer, to be able to do streaming and play video games. You're pretty much on point with doing that. And let me not fall too far behind on the chat here. Only experience. I'm working on editing one of my videos for the first time right now, so after it's up in a few hours, please let me know what else I can do. Okay, most people are saying PCs. Newegg, look for a $300 to $400 refurbished i7 workstation. Those are probably 3 times faster than most people's 5-year-old laptops. Yeah, I would definitely stay away from a laptop at all, generally speaking. Obviously, if you have $10,000 to go drop on a really high-end laptop, you probably have money to make to have people make the videos for you anyhow, so this really probably wouldn't apply to you. And by the way, if you have $10,000 to put down on a laptop, just go ahead and send it my way, and I'll make you a computer. I'll get that handled for you. A lot faster than buying a $10,000 laptop. Jean-Michael Gervais, the Little Fish Fam people. Hey, what's going on? Pleasantly surprised to hear about Linus. I love that channel. Yeah, Linus Tech Tips is really going to be a guy that you can go get a lot of specifics, and they do a lot of benchmark tests and stuff like that. So if you ever really do have a question about these components into a computer, Linus Tech Tips is definitely a guy. I don't know how to say his name very well. Epox Vox. Is also a guy that I definitely go in with, because he also tests a lot of audio and video stuff that I can't necessarily get my hands on. So he's a great source also for a lot of those style of videos. So that's definitely helpful too. Okay. Okay, cool. So let's see. Now, when we're talking about a computer, one of the really important portions is to take into consideration video editing software. Now, more often than not, video editing software is going to utilize a GPU, which a GPU is a video card. If you don't know what a video card is, we'll talk about it. If anybody on here doesn't know what a video card is, just type into the chat that you really don't know, and we'll talk about it. But either way, your computer, or most video editing software, is going to rely really, really heavily on your CPU, which is actually your computer chip, basically, to understand that. The CPU is what's going to drive almost all editing software and rendering software. Now, the reason that rendering is important, as Kevin was talking about up here, he's just been uploading raw footage up to YouTube because his computer is lagging so slow. Because when I make a video, right, I cut it together on the software. Once it's cut together on the software, I have to render that video down, which means compile it all nicely into one video, right? Then I take that video, then I upload it to YouTube, right? If you don't do that ahead of time, YouTube is going to try and do that for you, if that makes sense. Now, there's a little bit of priority put on, compiling video that is coming from cell phones, right? Because cell phones generally almost never have a video that's rendered in it. So when you upload from your cell phone to YouTube, it's trying to render as you go along. If that sort of makes sense, why you would get a little bit faster upload speed from your phone is because YouTube is actually rendering your video to make sure that every single picture in that video is correctly in place as the video is going to play back, okay? So if I was to take, like, for instance, a 10-minute, 30 frame per second video and just upload it, throw it right at YouTube, it would probably take, from my internet connection here, it would probably take about 15 to 20 minutes to just fully upload, right? Just to upload the whole thing, for it to just take the whole thing, right? Now, just depending on the time of day, just how much traffic is going on. Sometimes it might only take 10 minutes. But let's say it takes a 10-minute video, 10 minutes to upload. It's going to probably take about a half an hour, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour and a half. I've seen it take 2 hours for YouTube to essentially process what it calls processing the video, right? Now, when I render a video, a 10-minute video here, it probably takes between 18 and 21 minutes, essentially, to render the video and make sure that everything's nicely in place. Then it takes me about 10 minutes to upload it, or, well, actually, it goes probably about twice as fast. So it probably only takes about 5 minutes to upload it. And then it processes super fast because it's actually reading through and realizing that every single image within the video is in line with where it's supposed to be, and then it can process through it much quicker. What is going on here? Okay, well, Vicky is texting me from upstairs. I'm going to set my phone down there. Sorry about that. So, if now, as we were talking about, the rendering that actually comes from your computer, with some software, your video card can be enabled. More often than not, most softwares out there that say that the video card is enabled is actually just saying that, and you're probably not going to get hugely different processing times out of it. So if that makes sense, right? Because it actually, more often than not, the softwares just say that, but we'll get to that in the software portion. But realistically, most all video editing is going to take and render through your CPU, right? So you need to make sure that you have enough RAM and a nice enough CPU. And if you're going to build a computer, the most important thing to build it around is the best possible processor out there that you can get. The more cores that you can get, the faster that processor is going to operate, especially when handling the heavy load of rendering a video file. So let's see. I'm just double checking the lurkers here. Okay, so paying attention to your video card. So for instance, Steven here has a GTX 960, which is plenty of video card to handle the playback as you're editing your video, whether it be in Adobe or Sony or any of those companies that handle that stuff, that handle video editing software, is very important. That video card is going to handle it just fine. And rendering, so let's see. I think I looked up the specs of his computer. All right, so he has the AMD FX 6300, which is a 6-core processor, and realistically will be a little bit slow in processing, because it only it's the old AMD FX actually has a 6-core, and I think it only has 10 threads. I think it has 4 cores with 2 threads and then 2 spare cores, I think. I'm not off the top of my head, but it would definitely be, that will be your bottleneck right there, is going to be your CPU. But considering you're starting out, I don't think that it's going to be that big of a deal to you, because your experience with it is the only experience you're going to be referencing from. So if it was me, like, stepping onto your computer, I'd be like, oh my God, this is going to take forever. Don't worry about that stuff. Your computer is going to be fine. You got a fine computer in order to do that. At some point in time, you probably could add some RAM to it in order to get it a little bit better, but you do have at least USB 3.0 in order to load everything in. You got Windows 10, which is pretty normal, but you do have only 8 gigs of RAM. I would probably order 8 more gigs of RAM and slide those in. I don't see what motherboard it's actually got here, so I'm not sure if you have slots for it, or you'd have to swap them out or not. But otherwise, I think your system's going to be fine, and it's not going to be that big of a deal. Hold on. Only Experience is asking, how much would I have to super chat for an hour intro? Well, I would need to know what an hour intro is. Is it actually just me doing the intro for 1 hour? If that's what you mean. Luke, my tip there would be, don't cut yourself. But okay, so I think we hit over the basics of the computer and what computers I use and that kind of stuff. But basically, like I said, dump all your money into the best CPU that you can get, and build your system around that CPU, because that is what's going to power your ability to do a YouTube channel, to do some editing, to be able to move files around. The last thing that I will mention with the computer here is that his computer only has 1 hard drive in it, and it actually only has a standard HDD drive. So those of you out there that are wanting to start a YouTube channel and you want to start editing video and stuff all the time, I will highly recommend to go out and buy 2 SSD drives. They do not have to be very big or expensive. You just need 2 nice SSD drives and plop them into that computer. Obviously, hook them in. Format the disk, all that kind of stuff. Make sure they're working. Put your files in there and stuff, because this is very important. when downloading or basically offloading video from wherever you're getting it from, whether it be your cell phone or a camera or any of that kind of stuff, you're going to want to download that to one of those SSD drives. Now, when you edit, you're going to edit from that SSD drive. Then when you render, you're going to render into a different SSD drive. Okay? You also want to make sure that your video editing software and all that stuff is on an SSD drive. All of your Windows, all that stuff needs to be moved over to an SSD drive because your computer can access that. I forget what the exact, I think it's 6 times faster or something like that. I think off the top of my head, I know somebody out there will be like, dude, it's 5. Yeah. Off the top of my head, that needs to happen. Okay? So if you're going to edit your video, you're going to offload your video, edit your video, and then render it. Once you're rendering it, you want it to, the hard drive for it to land on, you want it to land into a different hard drive. And it's very technical in order to explain why that is so much faster. I don't need to get into that on this video. Just trust me, it is. It is way faster. It is way faster to render into a different hard drive, okay? Nowadays, you can get basically like 128 gig SSD for like $19 or something like that. So it's a really small investment, and it's really going to speed up all of the stuff that you're trying to do with your computer, with downloading your video, all that kind of stuff, realistically, okay? And so that's all pretty, it's all pretty basic. But yeah, as Rurutu's saying, it's read and write speed, but that stuff is pretty basic realistically, and it will really help you out. I can't sit here and tell you how you should do transitions or how you should do this or how you should do this or that or the other thing. But I can tell you how to at least get from first base to second base to third base to fourth base, if you know what I'm saying, in a quick manner, right? So an SSD is a solid state drive. If anybody is confused on what I was talking about there, you can order up 2 of those really cheaply. Just they don't need to be that huge because video files are, don't get me wrong, mine are big, I get that, but even with mine being really big, they're only like 20 gigs. They don't even take that much space. So but just do that, and that would be the one thing that with this specific computer that Steven's working with, that's what you need to do. And if anybody else doesn't have that, then go ahead and get that done. And then also, like I said, try to upgrade your CPU if you can. It's going to be the most important thing. All right, so let's move on to the next part. And this always comes up. People always ask me this: what camera do I use? Okay. So, I use a multitude of cameras, and we will go over them. You will notice something here. All of my cameras are Canon, okay? Now, nowadays, this is really just comes down to personal preference. If you're talking about Panasonic, Nikon, Canon, there's so many companies out there that make good cameras now. Nikon, will keep coming up. Nikon and Canon, in my opinion, are the top 2, and then everybody else is all just kind of fighting amongst themselves. But we'll go over a whole bunch of the cameras here. And now, what I was going to say is the reason I have all Canon, all of my software matches up, I'm able to continue using the same system. That's why I use Canon. A long time ago, I chose Canon because my girlfriend at the time was a very, very, very avid photographer. So she had all of these really fancy Canon cameras, and those are the ones that I was able to, this is like when DSLRs were coming out, when they were like just hitting the market. So give you an idea, it's quite a while ago. But those are the cameras that I started learning on, and I went, okay, I'm just going to stick with these because I got kind of a good idea how to use these a little bit. I know where the buttons are. I know what's going on. So that's why all mine are Canon. And then here's another reason, because I I always shoot with my DSLRs. Well, not always, but a lot of the time I shoot with my DSLRs. Here's what's important. If you buy one type of camera that has interchangeable lenses, now bear in mind, Canon makes multiple different lenses that don't necessarily go to this camera. But all of my cameras take this, will take this lens, right? The lens butt here, the butt of the lens will go into my cameras, right? Now, why that's important, lenses cost a lot of money. Glass costs a lot of money. So if I have all these lenses and I go out and I buy a Nikon camera, I have all these lenses that I won't be able to use, right? So that's why it's pretty important for me to stay with the Canon branding, because I have all these lenses that I'll be able to keep using in the future, because basically the camera portion might change, but I'll still be able to use that lens, right? And I obviously don't have all of my lenses here in the office. Some of them are actually just out and about doing whatever. But, you know, here's another example. This is a 50 millimeter, what's considered a prime lens. It actually doesn't focus, you guys, or it focuses. It doesn't zoom at all, you guys, because this is actually what's considered a prime lens, and it's always going to shoot at this focal range all the time. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and explain everything about every camera in the whole world, but just to give you an explanation, all of the lenses that I have will go into all of my cameras except for like this one here. So when I started my fish channel, what camera did I use first? The first camera that I used was a really crappy iPod. An iPod was, believe it or not, was the first thing that I started using. Since then, I have no idea where that iPod is. It's long gone. I think it got thrown out or something, or maybe it's, I don't know, it might be in storage or something like that. But I used an iPod, and then I used a new iPod that I got. Was the second one that I used. Oh, hold on a second. Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. I'm just checking in on the chat here to make sure I'm not missing anything. And like the people destroyed it. Shh. Like the people destroyed the Oranda Power. Oh, okay. I get it. Sean Michael Gervais is saying to hit the like button. Okay, cool. Hit the like button, I guess. I don't know. Doesn't really seem to do anything anymore. I don't know. But I used two iPods, right? Those are the original cameras that I used, and that was realistically, that was what I used originally. Those of you that know, there were a bunch of old videos on this channel and whatnot that got deleted at one point in time. I can't tell you even what cameras those were shot on. But when I started this out, I started using an iPod. The iPod was actually really handy. It worked really well. It's really easy to shoot with. And, you know, I would equate it now to today's like cell phone, right? Today's cell phone, if you have like an S8 or an S7 or even down to an S5 or an S3 or whatever, you can shoot really good raw video with them realistically, okay? It's not going to be super fancy. The depth isn't going to be super snazzy. The lighting isn't necessarily going to be, it's just going to get point and shoot. It's going to get you a picture, right? Which is all you really need to start out with. Now here is the first camera that I got dedicated for doing YouTube videos. As you guys can tell, the Canon branding makes these types of their products and stuff look fairly new, even though this camera is not new at all. I don't even know. I wonder if it even, see if it powers on. Yep, powers on and takes a picture and everything. So still works. I could probably use it for something. It's a great little hiking camera. Actually, I'll probably take it with us when we go to Alaska. But this thing is only, at the time, this thing was really cool, and it's a 16 megapixel camera, which, as you guys know, megapixels doesn't even really mean anything. But this little camera did a lot of work for me for a long time. One of the big deals with it is, oh no, this one doesn't. I thought this one had a mic input, but it actually doesn't. But luckily, the actual mic that's built in on this one, now that I'm recalling, is actually right on the top of the camera, right here. So I could actually keep track of what I was doing when I was shooting, right? So I could actually put my finger over the mic hole here. If there was like a bunch of ambient noise and stuff that I knew that was going to be ridiculously loud, like if I went under and was shooting underneath a sump or whatever. But this thing, I mean, I don't even know if you can buy this, but you could buy an equivalent one of these for like $100 now, probably cheaper on Black Friday or whatever kind of deal. You could buy a point and shoot like this and do most everything that you need doing out there. Now, Steven was asking me actually about the M as in Michael, the M3, which is one of Canon's cameras out. That's the newer version of this one. This hot pink camera right here is one of the cameras that I like to shoot with when I'm out and about. If I'm out somewhere, it's pretty rare someone's going to steal a hot pink camera if it's set up on a tripod and just shooting something, right? It's pretty rare that somebody would actually even steal this, which is the reason why I got me a hot pink one. This is actually an M2, so this is actually the international version. Now, one of the reasons I got this camera right here, this is what's considered it's not only it's a lens camera, but it's a digital lens camera, right? So it's fully digital, but it's going to shoot like a DSLR. And it also takes lenses right into it. Now, it has different size lenses, right? It actually takes the M variety of lenses, which is a little bit smaller, right? It's a little bit smaller lens. But all right, I don't know where the adapter went. But there actually is an adapter ring that I can use all of my other cameras lenses, like even off my 80 here. I can use those lenses on this camera. So I can actually take my glass, my lenses, my glass, I can take those from my big cameras and actually use it directly on this camera right here. One of the cool things about this little M variety camera is that it has a mic input, it has a HDMI out, and it also has you know, a USB out on that side, and obviously nothing else on this side. The camera on this is suitable. It realistically is suitable. You can change all the settings from the touchscreen on the back, so it's pretty dope. The camera's not the best, but the video on it is pretty good. It has pretty good pull for getting in focus and changing things around. You can change the light settings and do all that stuff. I highly recommend to anybody out there getting a touch screen that you can actually mess with the menu and stuff like that if you are going to get a camera for, especially for shooting fish tanks inside of fish rooms and stuff like that. The lighting is friggin' bananas in fish rooms. Really, it really is just crazy difficult, and you're gonna have to start to learn how to change settings and stuff like that to be able to shoot and have it actually look nice as you move around in and out of these really crazily different sounds like I'm farting lighting spaces. Here's a GoPro. GoPros are very useful if you can get one for a good price. Now, there are a bunch of drawbacks to GoPros. The older ones, like this one that I have here, has no screen. So you can't even see where you framed your shot, right? So you're never really going to know what kind of shot you're getting. But one of the upsides is that they do come in a case, so you can put them underwater. So hopefully you get some kind of good video from just shooting it kind of blind. Whereas, like, oh, hold on, my camera doesn't have a battery in it. Remember, if you're not using your camera, don't leave batteries in it. Whereas my camera here, right, let me see if you guys can see this. So I have a review, and I can actually watch what I shot on the camera, right? On the screen on this. So make sure the camera has some kind of review. The new GoPros have that, but it definitely comes at a price because you're talking about like $500 for a GoPro. They're so small, they get lost, people steal them, all that kind of stuff. But the thing is, they take micro SDs instead of random or regular sized SD cards. So bear that in mind also. All of my Canons take standard size SD cards. They all operate on the same SD cards. So I have like 30 of them, and they're all interchangeable, and it's not that big of a deal. So that is a good thing too. And I have SD card reader built into my computer, so I can actually take the SD cards out of the camera, put the SD card in the computer to offload all the footage, put a new one in my camera, and then go back and go back to shooting and stuff. Whereas GoPros, unless you have another micro SD with a micro SD reader, all that kind of stuff, you're going to end up using the USB, which is going to take time. It just takes time for the USB to pull all that video off of there and all that kind of stuff. So that's a couple things to think about if you're going to go the GoPro route, if that makes sense. Also, the older GoPros, no real external mic input. And now the reason that a mic input is important is to get real audio of the stuff that you're doing that's out there. Like if you're shooting video and like talking into the camera and all that kind of stuff, you're going to need an external mic. You know, as you guys can see, this external mic right here is a Takstar. I don't even know what the hell Takstar is. You can get cheap external mics like this for like $15, and they will work. Even just this $15 one will work way better than the built-in mic on this $1,500 camera, right? So always get an external mic so you can have control. Now the problem with these like GoPro type cameras, they don't have it. They just don't have an input at all, so you can't even put in any kind of mic to them. Now if you also wanted to have like a lavalier mic, like a lapel mic, they're called lavalier mics. If you wanted to have like a mic here so that you could put the camera back and talk from far away but sound good, those GoPros and all that kind of stuff, they can't do that either unless you're gonna sync up audio and all that kind of stuff later, right? Let's see what's going on here. Aquadacy, I used a simple cheap Canon PowerShot point and shoot camera for the first several years I was on YouTube. Now I'm using a Nikon D3300 and dedicated microphones. Yeah, exactly. If you're starting out, like when you're starting out, just get a camera and get rolling on it. I don't think anybody out there is really going to be super excited about somebody with and subscriber count is not important. We'll get into that later, but no one's going to be super excited about somebody's video when it's your first video, honestly, other than maybe your mom or a couple of your friends or something, because you haven't really worked into it. This is something that they just kind of keep doing and keep doing and keep doing. And if you got super popular right off the bat with the first video that you put out, you'd be so far behind the 8 ball, it would not be funny. So, just bear in mind that with a little camera right off the bat, you're going to start doing what you're doing, start learning what you're doing, start figuring out your own style and all that kind of stuff. Here is a Canon SL1. Now this is an older DSLR. This is one that is pretty much dedicated for live stream stuff and all that kind of stuff now. It's pretty much just set for inside shots and whatnot. But like I said, this processes and uses my glass from all of my lenses and all that kind of stuff. It has an external mic. The SD cards go into it. It uses really cheap batteries, so I can actually just swap out the batteries. They're actually rechargeable outside of the camera. That's a big problem with the older GoPros. You actually have to charge the actual camera itself. So if you ever run it out, then you have to charge the camera and you can't shoot anymore. Whereas like on my Canons, you actually just take the battery out, right, and just plop in a new battery. And I actually have like four batteries for this camera right here. 2 of them are on the USB charger all the time. That is one of the big drawbacks for if you're going to use the older GoPros or anything like that, for sure. So I would take that into account. So I think there's a lot of downsides to GoPros other than their small ability, their ability to go underwater. You can put them in kind of cool places. The old ones are pretty cheap, so like one of the cool things is like maybe you can go onto Craigslist, find some cheap ones, and you'd be able to shoot time lapse or stuff from a whole bunch of crazy angles and stuff like that. And maybe somebody steals one or two of them, and you wouldn't be like out a ton of money or anything like that. Because a lot of people, they get the new GoPro. You can find some old ones for pretty cheap, like I said, on Craigslist. And hopefully the ones that you buy aren't stolen. When you get a camera, always remember to register the serial number. They all come with a serial number so that you can look them up. Aquatic Hobbyist is asking, my biggest problem is the glare from other light on my tanks. Any suggestion? You need to turn off every single surrounding light, and that means closing doors, pulling drapes on windows, turning off every single other light than what is going directly into the inside of the tank. You need to turn off all of those lights. So hopefully that's a hot tip for you guys to cut down on glare and stuff like that. Now, like I was saying earlier, one of the big reasons to have the ability to review your film, right, and review your video from where you're shooting it is really important because of issues like that. If you end up getting glare in the video and stuff, that you're probably going to need to reshoot it. Now, if you had to go all the way back to your computer, offload the video, open up the video on your computer, and find out there's a bunch of glare on it, and then let's say you were shooting at your friend's house with a GoPro or something and you didn't have any way to review it from the camera, now you got to drive all the way back over there and try and relive whatever it was you were shooting before. So that's why it's pretty important to do that kind of stuff. Okay, let's get into my big rig here real quick. We'll run over this real fast. We'll run it over with my car. This guy's got jokes. Now, this is the Canon 80D. This is what I shoot with almost all of the time, whether I'm shooting film or video. This is pretty much my go-to camera all the time. Unless I'm going somewhere crazy, then I'll either take the M2 or the SL1. But this is pretty much my exclusive shooting camera all the time. Whenever you guys see the really high resolution shots and all that kind of stuff, like the 60 frame per second stuff, it's shot on that camera right there. Now, one of the big reasons I use this camera instead of a video camera, let's discuss that real quick. I don't use a video camera because I needed to shoot still. I needed to shoot still photography when it came time to buy an expensive camera. And me being on a budget, I didn't have enough money to go buy both. So I said, okay, let me find the best DSLR that shot video and I could shoot stills with, because as you guys know, at the time I was a chef, so a lot of the stuff that I needed to shoot pictures of was for restaurants and food that I'd made and this and that for menus and all that kind of shit. So I ended up getting this SL1 because the SL1 had the best video quality processor in it at the time when that one came out. So that's why I ended up going with a DSLR instead of just a video camera. If at the time my decision had been I was just gonna be using it for video and that kind of stuff, I would have just bought like a nice Sony HD handheld camera and then worked my way up from there and kept going that direction. So that's realistically why I went with the SL1, because the batteries were real cheap. We had the HDMI out, the USB outs, had a separate door for the SD card. You could actually shoot time lapse with this, so you actually need a separate actuator, what's called a shutter release, in order to shoot time lapses with that camera. Whereas the 80D now is actually just a setting within the software to able to shoot a time lapse. I can shoot it and set it to whatever I want. I can break the software of the old one and have it just shoot that way without a shutter release. But it's much easier to do with shutter release than mess with the software on a camera like that. So hopefully that's a couple of tips and tricks that seems like to make sense. We've definitely rambled on here for a long time about cameras, but as Aquadacy is saying here, we can essentially use the same tips and tricks that film crews use when shooting. We don't have necessarily the same equipment. Now, I didn't make a little thingy for down here in the corner to go when microphones. I forgot to make one for the microphones, so I'm just going to include it in the camera talk here. Go out and get the best microphone that you can. But here's a caveat that I need you guys to keep in mind. If you're ever going to be doing more than one audio at any point in time that you need a live recording, do not buy the USB version of these microphones, okay? So when I only ever did audio by myself, one of the main microphones that I used was this old CAD condenser mic, which this condenser mic works fine. This thing was only like $29.99 or something like that. It really wasn't that expensive, and it's really old. So that's the big, just to give you guys a pointer, that this microphone for a long time for doing voiceovers worked fantastically. Never really had any problems with it. And we moved up to the Yeti, and I also have some external microphones, but as I kind of pointed out earlier, with the external mics, they're just really directional, and they're really cheap because they get broken all the damn time. So realistically, going out and buying a $400 external microphone is just going to be a big waste of time. It's just going to get broken at some point. I guarantee it. It's just going to happen. So I wouldn't worry too much about those. Unless you get sponsored by Rode or something like that and you want to get a fancy external mic, then go ahead and do that. Let's see. I'm trying to keep up on the chat here, guys. It's hard to do. See my question? Really curious about my render time. Kevin. Does a better camera help with the video programs to prepare render faster? I use Windows Movie Maker. Oh, so Kevin, I'll get to that in the software section here in just a second. I'm just talking about mics for a minute or two. So the big deal with the microphone stuff is that if you're ever going to do something like I'm working on doing, which is having multiple people come onto a live stream, and you need multiple sources of audio at the same time to be running through your computer and stuff, having two USB mics, and I made a huge mistake because I was under the assumption that the software workaround would work to run this other microphone. Now, it has been virtually impossible to get both of these same microphones to work at the same time. Okay, and it is probably not going to happen. So what's going to end up happening is I'm going to have to order a mixer board and two XLR mics and run those in that way. And when that happens, I will definitely make a video about it and bitch a bunch and be super foot stompy mad and all that kind of stuff. So that is what's kind of going on with the microphone stuff. So Aquarium Co-op is saying our favorite mic for the camera at the moment is the Rode mic, as it doesn't have to have a hot shoe, and it's only $60. Yeah, so there are Rode mics. That little Rode mic, basically the one that Corey uses there, is actually a pretty small little guy, and it's like you said, it's only $60. It's not that crazy, but like I said, they get broken a lot by me because I'm kind of a maniac. So that's why I use the kind of cheap $15 ones, just because they get broken. I break them a lot. I'll probably get a Rode one again and then break that and be mad about it, but it's probably just going to happen. Aquatic Hobbyist is asking, at what point and why did you upgrade from your first camera to the big boy? Honestly, we went from the SL1 to the 80D because the SL1 wouldn't do a lot of the stuff very effectively that we needed it to do. One of those things is that it does have a fixed lens in the back, right? Whereas the 80 has a lens that can actually go forward and back. So it flips around like this. And as I'm operating it, I can actually, control the screen, you know, and what the camera is doing from that screen right there. So that's an important part of that camera, along with a couple of other things. This actually has a bunch of aperture settings. It has a bunch of software settings. It actually doesn't overheat as much as the SL1, so it doesn't get that hot realistically, whereas the SL1 would get hot and shut down a lot. And the battery life on this one's much longer. So along with some other things, of course, but it also has a lot more easily accessible buttons from the outside of the camera, as opposed to constantly having to be on the screen itself, or, you know, inside the menus and doing all that kind of stuff. So it has a lot more controllability from the outside. It just basically has a lot more features than the SL1 did, and it was just time to move up. And the more stuff that we were going to keep doing, the better to move up. And also, the frame rate on the 80D is much nicer, so we can shoot 4K ish type stuff on it if you want. I don't think it's really personally that big of a deal to move up to the 4K stuff yet, as far as for like YouTube videos and that kind of crap. It doesn't seem really all that important. We'll probably be shooting with some 8K stuff later this year on a couple of projects that are coming up. I'll be sure to tell you guys about those projects, of course, if you guys want to go see them. They'll kind of be artsy fartsy or whatever. If that's something that you guys are interested in, you guys will be able to check that out. But that was kind of the big reasons for moving up in the camera. Aquarium Co-op, by the way, I've been meaning to make a video and not trying to hijack, but Best Buy has a combo deal of the Blue Yeti and Logitech 922 for $149 for the pair, which is awesome. Yeah, that's a pretty damn good deal. Although the Yeti is a good mic, is a great mic, so you can definitely check that out. So that's all good. Only Experience is asking, do you need a mic if you just naturally talk loud? Yes, you absolutely need a mic. And let me point something out to you guys. The most important thing that you're doing with a YouTube video or any kind of production is going to be your audio, okay? If you have kind of a grainy camera, picture, or whatever, people will just sort out what the hell's going on with the video, because they'll just see it and go, oh yeah, they're going around over there. I mean, have you seen a video from, like a dash cam video from Russia, where it's just grainy as all get out, some of the worst quality, and then a semi crashes? You're like, oh my God, because you can figure it out with your eyes, right? Audio is going to be a huge problem for you if you do not get this sorted out. If you can't figure out how to get your audio sorted out, a ton of people, there's just no way that they're going to be able to watch your video. Find a video with really terrible audio and just try and watch it. Just try and watch it, and it will drive you bonkers. The audio is 100% important to have everything figured out with your audio. Your video can be totally screwball. Your transitions can be wrong. Your lighting can be wrong. You can have glare on your tank and all that kind of stuff. But if people can actually just listen to what you're talking about, they will tune in and they'll pay attention to what's up. If you don't have your audio figured out, people will just turn it right off immediately. You got hum in the background, you got weird noise in the background, you got pops and whistles and all sorts of weird stuff. They just won't watch your video at all. They'll just turn it off immediately. You know, if you go into it sounds like Aquadacy has some film production experience for sure, but if you go in and go to some film productions or TV production or any of that kind of stuff, they are spending all their time to make sure that the audio is legit. Because when you get a camera, you get the lights, you get everything in place, it's pretty much done. That's pretty much done. They will retake and retake and retake and retake audio over and over again. They'll overdub audio. They'll change audio. There are places where you go that the sounds of the audio from the video that they made or movie or whatever. They redo all of the audio, every single sound, the car door closing, the door closing, people taking steps, all that kind of stuff. They'll redo all of the sounds because it is so distracting to the people when the sound is way wrong and way off that they will totally lose focus and not be able to pay attention at all. So, Rurutu saying, yeah, get some $50,000 8K cameras. Yes, we'll be using them. We won't own them, but we'll be utilizing them for some potential project that's coming up. I won't tell you exactly what that's about because it doesn't matter yet. Lighting is more important. Let me see. Let's see. Quadacy is currently using an inexpensive VidPro XML lavalier mic, which does a tremendous job. I was shooting outside the other day. The wind got crazy, and the mic didn't pick up any of the wind at all. Yeah, it's pretty easy to put what is called in the industry a dead cat, which is that big fuzzy goofy thing. I don't have any right here, otherwise I'd show you one. But it's a big fuzzy goofy thing that goes over a microphone. That will help keep all that wind noise, all that ambient noise. If you're walking around fish rooms, I guarantee you there's a bunch of ambient noise that's going to be a big issue. So if you're able to have a nice microphone that kind of cuts out all that background noise and all that other stuff that's going on, it will definitely help out all of your video quality and all that kind of stuff. All right, let's get to the last portion here because we're almost done with this video because I'm gonna have to sign off here real fast. Let's talk about software here real quick. There's really only one option that you need to go with, and that's Adobe Premiere, okay? And I will explain why. You might be like me and use Sony Vegas. You might be like Sashimi Whiskey and use Sony Vegas. You might be like a lot of the other YouTubers out there that use Sony Vegas. And we are cursed with the curse of the Sony Vegas, okay? At one point in time, Sony Vegas was competitive with other products that are out there. And essentially, let's just say Adobe Premiere is across the board pretty much what everybody uses professionally, right? Or at least an approximation of it. Even if honestly, all of the other video editing software that is out there that is used professionally or whatever is basically follows the lines of Adobe Premiere. Like the buttons are in the same place, like the time code, all that kind of stuff is all in the same place. It uses a lot of the same verbiage within them. But use Adobe Premiere. The only problem with it is you can't buy it as a product anymore. So you're going to have to be paying a monthly subscription in order to use it. It's one of those workarounds that they've been able to grow their business with, having everyone be a customer forever instead of like I own Sony Vegas Pro 14 or whatever off the top of my head, and it costs us $400 to buy it. We do own it forever. Here's a problem. The company that does Sony Vegas now is a company called Magix, which they really don't have any I don't know. They own it, and it doesn't really matter all that much to them. I don't know how many error reports I've sent to them, and they just don't even care. They don't even email me back. So, yeah, you could use Final Cut. You can use all that kind of stuff out there. Like I said, I use Sony Vegas, but honestly, let's just say you are a YouTuber and you want to move forward in the let's say you're a filmmaker and you want to move forward at some point in time. Let's say you make a bunch of stuff and it gets some traction, and somebody wants you to come make some video for them or whatever. They're going to want you to make it for them in Adobe Premiere, essentially, is what they're gonna want you to have it in, in Photoshop. That's basically what they're gonna want you to do. That's the best way I can describe it, that for it to be important to do it that way. Because that's gonna follow that's gonna follow the lines of everything that they want you to do, the Creative Cloud, all that kind of stuff, Lightroom, Photoshop Elements, Adobe Premiere, all that kind of stuff is all gonna fall in lines with just about any company out there. So it's going to be important for your future, and you might as well learn it now. If you're an old guy like me, I've used Final Cut, I've used Vegas, I've used all that kind of stuff. When I went to school for audio engineering and all that kind of stuff, I learned it on an old program called Cakewalk, and I understand Cakewalk's around. Nobody tell me about it. I don't need to know. Cakewalk was an old program that was goofy as hell, and so when it came time for me to start really editing my videos and stuff, I went and tried some out. The ones that seemed goofy to me, I said no, and I ended up going with Sony Vegas. It was way cheaper than Adobe Premiere, and I should have gone with Adobe Premiere at the time, and I honestly am saying you should go that direction if you don't even look at any of the other options. Just go that direction. It's very important. Aquaticy saying Adobe Premiere really is the best. We were using Final Cut for a feature film. I was the VFX supervisor, and on halfway through, the director wished we had used Premiere instead. Yeah, I mean, that's really the thing. You're going to run into that everywhere you go, and I run into that. It's going to be a problem. It's a problem for me, and it's going to be a problem for everybody else, that if you're using something like Sony Vegas, it's going to be a problem. It just really is. Sony Vegas sucks, and I hate it, and I hate that it's the one that I really know. And I am slowly learning some of the things about Premiere and moving over to that platform at some point in time. I basically just need to buck up and make sure that I have enough money in an account for like a 2 year, for like 2 years worth of subscription to them, and then just go ahead and buy it for the meantime, and keep going that way. It's pretty important to do that so that your software is handled. And then if you're doing live streaming like me, what is it? Wirecast? Yeah, I think Wirecast is the best one out there. I can't remember. I don't want to misquote myself. Let me look up here. So I went with XSplit, and I realistically am not that happy about it. It wasn't the best thing to do at the time. So yeah, here we go. Yeah, Wirecast is a little. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be more expensive than XSplit. XSplit is essentially, I think, $100 per year. Once you own Wirecast, either the Wirecast Studio, which is $500, or the Wirecast Live Basic version, which is $245. Apparently, it's on sale right now instead of $299. So the Wirecast stuff is more money out the front, but you do own the license for it after that. So if you're going to do live streaming and that kind of stuff, I definitely would go that way. Yeah, so Aquaticy is saying I edit all my videos with Adobe After Effects because I'm a madman. Yeah, that I realistically I should be using After Effects and all that stuff instead of Sony Vegas. Like Sony Vegas right now, I have to disable my video card in order for it to load. Like I have to turn off my GPU in order for Sony Vegas to load and utilize it and utilize that program. Then I have to turn my GPU all back on in order to live stream once I've fully rendered a video. So it is a wildly frustrating program. It fucking pisses me off to no avail that it costs $400 and these dipshits won't even email me back. You know, like that. Pardon my language, but this really pisses me off. It really frustrates me. It's 95 degrees outside during the day, smoky, and these sons of bitches out of Germany won't even email me back when we paid them for this software, right? Right. So I would just go with Adobe Premiere, After Effects, all those kinds of things will definitely help you out if with anybody starting their channel out and starting to edit their videos and stuff, and especially moving forward. You never know. You never know what company or whoever's going to come to you and they're going to want you to give them a finished product so that they can go out and promote it or whatever and do all that kind of stuff. So if that makes sense, then I hope I covered a lot of the stuff. We'll see how it goes here. We're coming up on the end of the live stream. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I know this is a little bit different content than normal, thanks for everybody coming out. I need to go to bed. My lady and I need to go to bed, so that's going to be it for today. Hopefully I hit on some stuff. If you all have questions, if I was rambling on and I left a bunch of stuff out, go ahead. Message down below, all that kind of stuff, or send me an email or any of that kind of stuff, and we'll definitely get to those kinds of stuff. So if you send me an email, I will probably answer it at some point in time. So that's going to be it for tonight. Hope everybody out there has a safe and happy Wednesday. Tomorrow, 93 and smoky. And, I wanted to mention today, as Kevin knows, we were talking about air compressors. So 95 degrees and smoky outside, and my air compressor broke today. That's the second air compressor that I've burned through this year. And as my good friend Chris told me, just stop building so much stuff. Big help. Thanks, bud. But have a great night, everybody. And I'll be up bright and early at 5 a.m. to go buy a new air compressor, I guess, because I got work to do tomorrow. I love you guys. Stay safe out there and don't die. I don't love you guys as much as I love Vicky, though, because Vicky's my lady, and I love my lady. I love Victoria, and I'm gonna give her smoochies before bed. Bye.